Welcome to the AirCon Vault, recordings of the live streams from Erigle's audio conference. These are made free thanks to our sponsors: A Sound Effect, Game Audio Learning, Kilohertz, Audiokinetic, Soundcuts, Tsugi, Boon Library, Sound Warriors, and Erigle's, the online home for audio people.
Welcome to Wise Up, everybody. So I'm going to introduce our lovely guest here today. So Damian Kastbauer, hello. Damian started his career squarely in the middle between content and engineering, bridging the gap between sound, music, dialogue, and game engines. He spent his first years as a freelance technical sound designer, jumping between projects to facilitate a team's vision for interactive audio. During that time, he used 11 different middleware tools for audio, which is amazing, Damian, let's be honest. Helped to ship a couple of Star Wars, a couple of third installments of the Uncharted and Dead Space series, a pile of episodic Telltale games, and contributed to the delightful Peggle 2 and the Plants vs. Zombies 2 live service game. He is now a software product manager at Audiokinetic, who are kindly sponsoring this event and one of the sponsors. And he's helping to grow Wise towards the needs of the audio community, which includes everybody here, I'm sure. So, welcome, Damian. Yay! Peggle.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Oh my goodness, how are you today, Damian? And is you're
doing so great.
You're about 8 hours behind me, I think. That's amazing.
It's true. Morning here, Seattle. It rained for like 5 minutes, just gratuitously, but maybe sunshine later this afternoon. That's the drama of spring in the Pacific Northwest.
We're going to will the sunshine to happen because it's a very positive event. So, okay.
Excellent.
So let's get started.
Rock and roll.
Let's start with a couple of introductory questions, I suppose. So what company did the co-founders Martin Klein and Simon Ashby work at before starting Audiokinetic, and when was Audiokinetic founded?
Aha, so this is a great one because the roots of Audiokinetic come out of a shared experience of the co-founders working at Ubisoft on the audio side. And let me see, looking at the notes, they were both at Ubisoft Montreal in 1997, helping to solve these industry problems with music and sound and, trying to bring that interactivity to it. And it was towards the end of their experience there that they founded Audiokinetic. This was first in 2000 as Waveworks, and then rebranded as Audiokinetic in 2003. And yeah, like I've got a little hanger there to circle back to with some of the next questions, but really the two of them, had this shared experience working together and imagined a future where, tools would become more commonplace. You mentioned, or in the introduction, it says 11 different tools just in my short career as a technical sound designer. And, it used to be a lot less consistent out there when talking about audio and tools. So this was during that moment. And I think about, fallen audio middlewares like ISAC from Creative Labs. This was a entire suite of tools for audio, including, sound propagation and behaviors, but long gone. And, not to mention all of the different proprietary tools. It was a much different world for audio tools at the time. So you've got a lot of, developers rolling their own tools and technologies. I think about the tools at LucasArts at the dawn of adventure games. They had a tool called iMuse, which was famously employed for interactive music in the Monkey Island series of games. And the adventure games that, you know, we can't put our hands on to learn from anymore. But again, leveraging the experience of Simon and Martin and kind of evolving that to arrive at the beginnings of Wwise, you know, building that strong foundation for the future we are living in, I guess,
Definitely
is really for me, it's been such a cool story and trajectory because, well, at some point, this middle of things was all I really was interested in. Smart folks creating cool sounds, music, dialogue,
amazing.
Engineers, programmers, you know, working on the game side of things, fantastic. But right in that magic middle where technical sound design has emerged is, yeah, that's a sweet spot for me. So I'm happy to now be at Audiokinetic and contributing to that legacy. So
amazing. And, you know, contributing to, in a sense, kind of like a homogenous, you know, game audio kind of side of things, because, you know, not having it like 50 different tools to worry about anymore is we're quite lucky, I think, and we can get to know the few that we need in a very deep level. So it's fantastic. Yeah,
that's a good way to put it. And the other thing that comes with that is this, you know, because we share similar tools, or we've arrived at a language that we can exchange ideas with, there's less of a sense of propriety around these techniques, which makes it easy for us to share as a community the cool things we're doing, and they kind of translate no matter what tools or what kind of game you're using. So anyway, we're off to the races, but for folks who are in the chat, you know,
questions.
hello, and yeah, drop questions anytime. We'll keep an eye over there. Helen has graciously arrived with some great questions that we can kind of weave in and keep the conversation going.
But the priority is the chat. We're going to see if anybody has anything. Don't feel like you need to wait for a prompt from me or anything. Just ask away, and I'll do my best to keep track. So
yeah.
Fantastic.
So great. Like, and keep them coming. We'll keep an eye and weave them in as it makes sense. Right out the bat, Giovanni, good to see you.
Hello, Giovanni.
In the chat. Always a pleasure. Has anything changed in the day-to-day life with the acquisition of Audiokinetic by Sony? So this was, I think, 6 or 7 years that Audiokinetic was acquired by Sony. And the beauty is that the culture and day-to-day has been preserved. So not a lot of change. We, you know, have bridged that transition across shared services, things like softwares and securities, you know, the kind of things that you would just hope go smoothly and you can assimilate. And ultimately, I think the strength of Wwise as a cross-platform audio development workspace is one of the things that Sony saw a clear value in. And so, you know, being able to continue working across multiple platforms is something that was clearly embraced during that acquisition. And I think you start to see some really cool side effects of that emerging in things like the mastering suite. So this is cross-platform mastering plugin that sits on the at the output of Wwise, and started as an internal mastering suite available only to PlayStation developers on the hardware. And so I think one of the first things there was just being able to, exchange ideas and technologies around how sound is mastered for games. And then, Audiokinetic bringing that to developers across all platforms using Wwise. So that was one of the first cool collabs out of the gate after the acquisition.
That's amazing, because with a partnership like that, like in general, like having a middleware, connected to a major game company, you have that bi-directional dialogue between, what they need is for next gen consoles, and then you can work with them closely to see what audio needs, and it's fantastic. So.
Yeah. Well, and you're hitting on something there that I think is worth saying out loud, is that we talk to developers across all different kinds of games, different platform targets, people out on the edge doing wild stuff, and people who are really just trying to support the games that are being made with sometimes very simple solutions. So it's a gift to be able to sit at the intersection of the community out there working with Wwise, reaching for these ideas with sound, and really being able to, interoperate in that way. And I guess maybe landing that statement, carrying that experience back into the development of Wwise over time. So, yeah.
Definitely, and it's a great relationship to have. Giovanni there came back with something else. He said, "Nice one, and it's great that Sony saw the benefits of keeping it open to all platforms." Absolutely, yeah. Couldn't agree more. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so why the two W's when we pronounce Wise? Or am I pronouncing it correctly?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so initially the company was founded as WaveWorks.
Fantastic.
Okay, and one of the things that they were developing, or the thing, was the WaveWorks interactive sound engine.
Okay.
And when they incorporated as Audiokinetic in 2003, they left behind the WaveWorks name and acronymized the product as Wwise, the
Fantastic.
WaveWorks Interactive Sound Engine.
Ooh.
And there we have the genesis. And spoiler, internally, we only use one of the W's when we pronounce it. However, I do kind of love all of the different ways that people say Wwise. Do you have one? A favorite?
A favorite? I think I was messing with somebody before and I called it Wheeze, and then they went off and just kept calling it Wheeze, and then I had to tell them, sorry, I was messing with you. But so and then you hear Wwise a lot as well, but which it takes a while to say. So Wise is good. So yeah.
I'll take a Wwise any day. Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Which is to say, there's no wrong way to say Wwise. And how about another favorite is Wwise. This is from some of our Scandinavian friends. Will say Wwise.
Oh yeah, because it's in different languages. It's very interesting. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Wow.
I love all of the chat here about.
Jonathan says, "My blown is mind." Yes, ours is too.
Yeah, so we got a bunch of great ones. Mark, you convinced the engineers at work to say Wwise. Oh, nice. Oh,
nice one, Mark. Kindred spirit,
really
love it.
Good. Really good. Oh man, Wwise. Yeah, maybe we'll just spend the rest of this chat pronouncing Wwise differently. Wwise.
Yeah,
this reminds me of a great Joanna Newsom album that I think Jonathan is name checking here. Wwise.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Oh, what an amazing artist. Anyway, that's the
Okay.
stuff. It's amazing.
Good. Okay, let's roll it back to
just one more
question
there. George
from...
says he can, I heard many people in Europe calling it Wise, which, it makes sense, thinking like Germany and that kind of thing. So that's amazing.
Okay.
Cool, okay.
So let's roll it back to a question from Ollie.
Yes, where did I miss that? Ollie, I know Wise is popular among bigger AAA games, but comparatively, it's not used as much in indie projects. What are the plans for Wise to become more indie friendly? Thanks, Ollie.
Okay, great question. Thank you. And, it boggled my mind to hear in a meeting the other day that we ship over, or that over 300 titles per year are shipped using Wise. So that's a lot of projects, and it's not just AAA in that mix. So definitely there are a lot of people exploring Wise from an indie perspective. We made a change recently that made Wise free for indies, and that's developers below a certain budget. All of that information for licensing is on the website, but essentially anyone can register a project through the customer portal at audiokinetic.com. And once you're there, all you have to do is, request a license based on your budget, and it unlocks all of the limits to content generation. So, this makes it easy. And again, it's that relationship that starts at the customer portal. We present you with a license key. We make sure that you have everything you need, because along with that, we can make sure that you have evaluation versions of plugins. So let's say, you really need that convolution reverb, or you just want to hear how much better it sounds than an algorithmic solution, or maybe you're out there doing something cool with granular synthesis and you want to give SoundSeed Grain a try. There's lots of ways that we can help support the different kinds of developments that you're doing. So what are the plans to become more indie friendly? Well, I think one of the ways that we're doing that is by trying to highlight indie games across our Wwise Up On Air series, as well as our Audiokinetic blog. And so surfacing the stories of developers that are out there using Wwise, both at that AAA level, as well as just down on the ground doing cool stuff. That's another way that we're trying to ensure that people know what the possibilities are and really kind of stay unafraid of exploring what's possible.
Definitely. So. Greg has a question. Hello, Greg. Yesterday, Alex Previty, yay, I love Alex, is great, gave a talk on mixing, and for God of War Ragnarok, they built frequency sidechaining with RTPCs by separating out the low, mid, and high frequencies and modulating them. Are there any plans for a frequency sidechain plugin within Wwise, which I had as a question? But thanks, Greg. As far as I know, they built in a dynamic ducking system for that game as well, which was fantastic. But anyway, David.
Okay, great question. And Greg, thanks for being out ahead with that in the Q&A questions section. Okay, multi-band sidechaining in Wwise. Well, nothing to report yet. Of course, it's on our radar. We have a great relationship with Alex, the team at Sony Santa Monica, and other teams that have been leveraging the metering sidechaining workflow on a bus and as a RTPC in Wwise. So I'm thinking as far back as Crackdown 2, they were pulling this multi-band sidechaining trick. And we actually had a great illustration, in fact, a hands-on walkthrough of setting up multi-band sidechaining on our Baldur's Gate 3 Wwise Up On Air live stream. So drop into that over on our YouTube channel. You can jump right to the section where Matthias and Stefan walk us through multi-band sidechaining setup, both as a way to, compress the dynamics using different frequency bands, as well as expand. So a couple of great examples there on that live stream, as well as the walkthrough.
Yep.
When will it come to Wwise? Well, the other side of this is there is a plugin that's available right now to do multi-band compression. If you go to our plugins page at audiokinetic.com, you can jump into the plugins and community plugins page where I can't remember, the MPC might be the developer's name, who has a solution for folks out there that might be interested in what's available off the shelf. And of course, internally, we are hearing these feedback and comments about the opportunity that people are finding with multi-band compression. So we're not there yet, but there's some folks thinking hard about how we can, evolve sidechaining in Wwise in the direction of this frequency-based capability. But like everything, we're going to want to do it in a wise way, in a way that works within the context of the authoring application. And there's a lot of cool things happening right now. So we'll be looking for the moment to evolve that workflow.
Fantastic. And Greg there just linked the YouTube channel. I forgot to mention that the title of this talk is kind of an extension of Damian's amazing series on YouTube, and there's probably a playlist there, I'd say, but it's where Damian gets to speak to audio professionals from major games, and sometimes even at conventions they get the floor to present on what they've done. Case in point, Baldur's Gate at GDC, was that correct? I think. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, we had a series of great presentations from Wwise developers in San Francisco. That Baldur's Gate one, we had a couple of haptics talks, the folk from Spider-Man 2, Christian from IO Interactive. Again, there was a great talk right before this one from David on haptics for iRacing that's worth digging back into the AirWiggles vault for. And all of those presentations from GDC are up on our YouTube channel as well. Deep dives into an indie game called Somerville, if anyone out there played that. A lovely little title. Well, just a ton of cool stuff. Again, part of our commitment to surfacing these stories and the knowledge share in the community. So,
there's a question there from Robert. Robert Frost, a bit far back. Sorry, Robert, I missed your question. But essentially, the question is, how can I get started quickly and Wwise, leveraging my knowledge of FMOD? And I think it's a very, very good structure on the website for that. So, yeah.
Cool. Okay, great question. Getting started quickly in Wwise. Well, there's so much to leverage in your experience already. You know what an event is. You know that it can be a one-to-many relationship. You understand sound banks, how these behaviors and sounds are packaged together. Again, I think you'll find a lot of the same controls between the two applications, whether it's simple things like volume and randomization, or extended things like routing and spatialization. So I guess where I would say the biggest differences are you have the way that FMOD chooses to deal with looping and jumping between parts of a segment.
Yep.
Again, in Wwise, since it's arrived, there's been a separation between the way you handle audio and the way you handle music. And these two aspects of interactive audio each come with their own benefits, which is to say, There's no reason not to interoperate between the audio and music hierarchies in Wwise. There's benefits to both. But one of the big differences, I think, is that we have an entire interactive music hierarchy right now with objects that are specifically tooled for music development. And so you have some, you have some choice there up front as to how you're going to approach it. And I know, Helen, you've dug a ton into the music systems in Wwise. So I guess, how would you say the differences, or maybe what is your approach as you're finding your way into Wwise with music?
Ooh, question for me, my goodness. I suppose in a sense, if you were to compare the two, because I know a lot of people just, we're not comparing companies or anything like that. We're just as practical standpoint. Yeah, with FMOD, there's a lot of interchangeability, but there is in Wwise as well. I do find that there's a bit more structure hierarchy in Wwise, because you've got the master mixer hierarchy specifically for that. You have the actor mixer, you have the interactive music, and they're all in the designer window, which is fantastic. But I wonder sometimes if there's like a reason for sound design to use the interactive music hierarchy, or vice versa for music to use the put stingers and such into the actor mixer. Can they creatively multiply each other? I haven't tried that myself, but it'd be really cool to see. I'd say it would it be more streamlined for the program, or could it break things? So it's yeah.
I'll give you one wild example from my history, and these are great questions to ask, right? Like, and as you dig deeper into Wwise to understand the precision there, the music system, it is all synchronized and divisible based on tempo, beats, bars, time signatures, right? So this is the backbone of the music system. It's built in, and because of that, it has different capabilities. Transitioning needs to be thought of in that context of musical divisions, right? Which is to say, we have a lot of folks who are, wading into Wwise with music saying, I just want to float some sounds around, sympathetically, and I don't need tempo or time signatures. And so they'll actually build a music system in the actor mixer hierarchy using blend containers, blend tracks, transitioning based on parameters in a much more fluid and dynamic way. On the flip side of that, it was in Peggle 2 where this is a music game fundamentally, right? The background plays, the pegs that are hit by the ball on the way down are all sympathetically tuned to whatever the music is playing at the time. And meanwhile, I dragged in a bunch of frogs and birds and owls and crows, and those were being fired off on the beat bar or being triggered by the music to arrive at musically relevant moments. And so, again, kind of a neat background trick. It's not out there in your face in a way like Hi-Fi Rush, where everything is tuned to the music system. Again, like the things they did with Wwise in that game across music, sound, animations, visual effects.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Just some incredible stuff there. So it's really about how you choose to use it. And I think there's a world where we imagine arriving with, a clear ability to interoperate across audio and music in Wwise in the future, as well as dialogue.
It's amazing because one of the beginner the questions I get from a lot of people kind of starting off with Wwise is, oh, I'm a sound designer, I'm not going to touch interactive music, or vice versa. With interactive music, I'm not going to touch actor mixer. But it's be interesting to see what results you get. And like you were saying there about using animal sounds for interactive music and stuff, it's kind of like making a custom cue in the actor mixer, it seems amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And again, ultimately, you're trying to, service the game and support what the game is trying to do with sound. And ultimately, when you arrive at a place where you know your tools, you know what's possible, well, there's no rules really.
I'm going to catch up on questions here. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
We kind of got into it there. Okay, I'm going to scroll back a little bit.
I'm feeding our little list too.
Anything I don't, yeah, because anything I don't get, I think I might just put as a post on Airwiggles, and if people want to check that out, I'll put up in the next hour or so. Let me see something that.
Okay, let's roll back to Eric. He had a question. So
Eric had a question. Yes, Eric Morales. He had a question. With generative AI becoming so ubiquitous, is Audiokinetic planning and implementing some sort of AI black magic into Wwise? If not, I don't blame you. Okay, thanks for your question so much, Eric.
All right. Good question.
Very good question. Yeah.
Well, I think we're very interested in what's happening out there with AI and machine learning. And I think that the ways that we're imagining it are to help unblock workflows that are overly, overly touchy, like there are parts of the workflow in Wwise where if you didn't have to do the same thing over and over 100 times, that would probably be okay. So I think there's definitely an interest in trying to automate away some of the pain using the technologies that are starting to evolve.
Yep.
Now, that said, what are you looking for? Like, what are the parts of the workflow that are pain points? We know that these game worlds are ever expanding. So what are the pieces that we can, hand over to a kind of automation? I think about things like tagging surface materials, or how about footsteps in animations. I know that the industry has worked hard over time to try and bring systems that automate the placement of a footstep sound based on an animation's foot clipping a texture, and getting surface information. But where are those places where if you didn't have to do it, and so those are the places where we're looking for the opportunity to, bring that technology to interactive audio.
Well, exactly, and I totally agree with kind of making the kind of painful parts of the workflow easier. Like I know Reaper, there's a custom script you can have to like rename assets if you need it, but it'd be nice to be able to do it in Wwise natively, just in case for some reason you can't use Reaper in like the next project you do or something like that. So it's yeah, so the more streamlined the better, and the less pressure on the system, and the programmers are happy. It's great.
Right. Well, and again, I think we are definitely looking to the community to say, well, this is what we need, and in fact, that's at the core of most of the change that happens. It comes out of feedback from the community saying these are where we're struggling. This is what we need help with. This is what we need to enable the best sound for these experiences. And I think especially true in the case of spatial audio, where each release comes with simultaneous pushing of the boundaries of what's possible at real time to understand the environment, but also driving towards performance so that more and more people can reach for spatial audio, acoustics, and environmental simulation as a tool to support their game, because it's optimized for whatever size game they're making, whether it's a giant open world game or just a tiny little side scroller. Like, why shouldn't you have access to understand the environment of these and use that information to drive the way the game sounds dynamically? So
definitely. Just thinking there because this is the chat's firing off. It's
We're
amazing.
moving fast. Yeah, it's awesome.
But
Thanks for the questions.
With the few questions that were in Airwiggles, I might get you to just do quick fire answers to those or something because there's a lot here.
Yeah.
So Fernando asks, in his yesterday presentation, oh, sorry, I missed somebody. I'll come back to you, Fernando. Sorry. I think I'm pronouncing it. Is it Wwhat? I think I have a friend who's from Belgium with that name. Are there plans to have plugins like convolution or spatial included in default versions of the Wwise license, as it's pretty mandatory to have, but not every game needs it though?
So I'll take your question as feedback. Really, it's this idea that that we want all the toys, right? As creators out there, we want to be able to reach in the toolbox, and we're definitely listening when these questions come up about plans to have these plugins by default. So nothing to talk about right now, but again, I'm listening, and there's folks thinking about what makes sense, because as you say, there's a lot of games that could benefit from that, and we're trying to find the right way to make that possible in the best way. So thanks for the question and suggestion.
Fernando asks, in his yesterday presentation, Leonard Paul from the School of Video Game Audio talked about visual scripting and pure data. Are there any possibilities to use it in Wwise in the future? Just curious.
Nice one. Thank you, Fernando. There are no plans for visual scripting at the moment in the near future of Wwise. And I think that's it's a great direction for continued, control over audio behaviors for sound designers, composers, dialogue, like giving a visual scripting language. It really helps. I was never an engineer. I didn't get too down and dirty with much scripting, although I waded into my fair share of Lua and Python, etc. So I get it. Like a tool like Blueprints in Unreal really gives someone the accessibility to make those changes. And so while we don't have any plans for it right in the near future, it's something we're thinking about all the time. And even in a more consolidated way, conditional logic, like some of the things we hear from developers, if a sound designer had access to more ifs, ands, else's, well, would that enable, different decisions within the authoring tool, so within Wwise? And so, yeah, while there's not much to talk about there, it is something that we're thinking about, because ultimately we want to, bring as much of that control over audio as possible. And I tell this story all the time, right? Like you have a pause event for going into the menu of your game. And actually, Simon Ashby will tell this story from his time back at Ubisoft, having to sit down at the desk with the programmer to, get them to code the fade out for the music when you pause the game. And having it come back, 3 hours later, and actually that half-second fade, scratch that. It needs to be a 1-minute fade, and 3 hours later. Fast forward to today, where we can author that, simulate it, and in real time understand those decisions from within Wwise. Well, it's a paradigm shift. So yeah, we're looking for those opportunities to shift that paradigm into the hands of content creators in Wwise.
Absolutely, because especially fade outs and such in the interactive hierarchy or music hierarchy, it's like I find it to be quite solid, and it's the decimal point and the the waveform, or the not waveform but the EQ envelope is very precise, so it's fantastic. Yeah.
On that, like auditioning music transitions, can I just say it?
Absolutely.
There's a long way around to understand those transitions right now in Wwise. And, you know, we've had some rounds of feedback with the community out there using the music system. We understand that it could be better. It could be easier. Folks who've done it using the playback speed trick to race to the end of a long music track to hear that transition. We hear you, and we envision a day when that is far easier to understand your transitions between different music segments and playlists. So we'll get there. We're listening.
Fantastic. One of my favorite things about Audiokinetic is how responsive you all are to not just the feedback, but to, you know, if somebody needs help and that kind of thing. So thank you. So Anthony, hello Anthony. Question: what new features or updates are coming to Wwise that you're most excited about? And that was one of our questions. So yes.
Come on.
Yeah,
that was a feeder question. And let's say I'm always excited for the next release of Wwise, to put it in folks' hands. We just crossed the feature complete finish line. And so we're right now tucking the 24.1 beta into the box for release sometime in July. And wow, there's two really exciting features that I'll get right out to you here for the first time, and that is live media transfer, something that we put into the box in 23.1 as an experimental feature that will fully arrive. So connected to the game, being able to replace an audio file in the originals folder while you're connected, have the game pick that up immediately and just keep moving forward. So,
oh my goodness.
this is a paradigm shift in your iteration workflow for audio files. So this one is going to be great. That comes along with some increased live editing capability. So this is you know, some of the things that you're prevented from accessing when connected to the game. We're just unlocking stuff. And that includes the ability to just create new objects in Wwise, delete them, rename them, all kinds of affordances to encourage that live, fully connected workflow. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, that one is going to be hot, and I can't even keep up with the chat right now. It's so great.
Popular, love it. It's great.
The other one that is going to hit you right in your workflow and definitely jump into that beta. You won't need to do much to find this one, but in 22.1, we added contextual navigation and object tabs. Yep. So you just change between objects, you know, see the editor that you need for that object. I know with music, it was a big deal because you didn't have to change layouts anymore to see your default segment editor or playlist editor. Well, we're taking that a step further in 24.1. So not only do you have that contextual navigation and default editor, but we're moving that default editor into the center focus. So in the primary editor of a tab. And those of you who are following along, you're thinking to yourself, but Damian, that's where all of my properties are, right? So we've changed the way that you edit properties inside the context of an objects tab. And I can't wait for you to see the new property editor that we've got in store for you. So
oh my goodness,
looking forward to your feedback about that when it comes up.
That's amazing. That's like almost an extension of one of the questions on the forum from Stefan, which was, is there a way or will there be one to copy and paste settings, including randomization from one object tab to another in the designer layout? So you're kind of making things more customizable, which is fantastic. So yeah.
Yeah, again, I think we have plans for that feature specifically moving forward. you know, being able to multi-select objects, have the properties, you know, the combination of multi-editing and property editing. There's a lot packed into that statement, but yeah, I think a paradigm shift of property editing is on the precipice of peas porridge hot, peas porridge cold. No, sorry, I tried to rhyme too many peas, but it's coming.
Brilliant. Oh my goodness, this is very exciting time for Audiokinetic for sure. So Robert, I'll go back to the other two questions in a second, but Robert said the difference between Wwise and FMOD is one feels like a DAW and the other one is a bit different. And that's a very valid point, Robert, because everybody discusses that when they start to delve into both middleware. Programs. Just as people were responding there, you kind of have different needs for different things, and it's going to be more like an instinctual thing which one you'll reach for. So it's a very, very normal thing to feel, you know. So
yeah, and really part of this shift in 24.1 to put default editors into your center focus is about trying to get your audio in front of you in Wwise. And so things like the source editor, which is the default editor for editing a sound SFX. It's your wave file or it's your source plugin. Now in 24.1, that waveform is right in front of you. So you want to top and tail it. You want to control the fade. You've got what you need in your center focus. And so, yeah, I mean, a comment like that speaks right to what we're trying to do, is to put what's important in front of you. Again, keep your properties accessible, but, you know, make sure that you have that visual context to help you get from, you know, sound file to behaviors to running in the game.
Fantastic. My goodness, I'm getting excited already. I kind of want to download the new update. Let me see. There's a question. Oh, I'm creating an ASMR content using Wwise and wondering if there's a way to hook it up with microcontrollers like the Arduino or Teensy. Now, I think I can answer that one. I know somebody who connects Max MSP to Wwise, which is amazing. So that's what would be off the top of my head anyway. But what do you reckon, Damian?
Yeah, I mean, there's a great Wwise Up On Air that we did with Ressa Schwartzwald, where she walked us through the integration of Wwise and several non-standard controllers, like her, what is it, the Wii Ring that she turned into an accordion. There was also a fruit synthesizer that she wired up. And so I think that I think there's a lot of ways to get that information out of Wwise and to whatever device that you're working with, or the other way around, information from an Arduino or Teensy to trigger different Wwise things, whether it's events, parameters, or otherwise.
All very exciting. And that probably feeds into another one here that there was somebody asking about, where's it gone? Wow, this is amazing. Thank you all for your questions. Just in case you don't feel appreciated, this is amazing. There was a question, I can't find it, but it was about, oh yeah, could you talk a little bit about the use of Wwise outside of games? That kind of segues to that. Specifically, how artists might use the tools to render spatial audio for like immersive audio installations. And that reminds me of that article that went up recently. I think it was their Canadian artist that, yeah, I can't remember their name, I'm really sorry, but it was amazing. So yeah, anyway.
Cool. So the question is kind of outside of Wwise.
Yeah, outside of games, how can you use Wwise for to use the tools to render spatial audio for live immersive audio installations?
Yeah, great. So we think about location-based entertainment here a lot at Audiokinetic, right? There's a growing interest in trying to bring dynamic audio into these real-world applications. So, for instance, the example of, you know, using spatial audio or representing a real space with spatial audio. And drop an example into the chat if you can, just so that I could maybe answer it directly. But this, so getting information from the space to start with. So imagine you've got a imaging camera over the top of your installation. It has a bunch of different people in the room. It's tracking the number of people, the density of the crowd. How can you use that information to, let's say when there's less people, we can maybe have a little more ambience, maybe some music. As more people come in, do you want to raise or lower that, intensity? How do you want to drive that experience differently when there's more or less people in the room? So that's maybe one example. Another example might be if you're participating in a museum installation, you're wearing headphones, you're getting positioning information throughout the space that's referenced in a game engine simulation of the space. Now you're getting virtual emitters that are attenuating based on your distance to, let's say you roll up on a statue and it's like a bicycle, right? And now as you approach it, you can hear that bicycle in 3D audio with all of the spatial positioning. And as you walk away from it, it gets quieter. So this is just a couple examples of how folks are leveraging Wwise, spatial audio, or just, the same kinds of techniques that we imagine in games.
Amazing, because it's definitely a versatile enough program to use in the real world. Yeah, so that's fantastic. Lewis has a very minor feature request for colorblind users of Wwise. Any chance the color palette can be updated or use patterns like the Trello does? So.
I'll put that into our suggestion database and try to take a look at what makes sense there. We do have a couple of folks who will provide us with accessibility feedback each time we come out with a beta or full release. And so we're tracking on these different opportunities. One thing that we've been working on over these last years is transitioning to a new framework which drives all of the everything that's presented in the app. And so with that new framework comes new affordances and new abilities to reach for these features and have what we need to make sure that they land appropriately. So kind of a long answer there on that one.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I love that you have an accessibility team. I know that's a whole other, talk.
Well, but a user experience team and a UX designer, and then we have a framework team who's putting in all of the infrastructure for us to be able to address these suggestions from the community. Again, trying to build something that everyone can access.
I'm trying to, sorry guys, just want to say if anybody doesn't get their question answered, please DM me on AirWiggles and I'll see what I can do. Okay.
Yeah, or stick around. We can drag the chat out as long as we want after the end of this live stream.
Okay, well that's excellent.
Jump into that.
Mark Kilborn, dropping a feature request right in the chat. What are the odds of VST hosting within the Wwise authoring tool with live preview and connected to the game and the effects being baked in when you build sound banks? A useful variant would also be the ability to load a VST in to create reverbs, preview through them when connected to the build, and then bake it, which creates an IR.
Yeah, well, we definitely hear you on the VST side of things. It has always been a question of how will we do it in a way that satisfies all of the licensing requirements of VST, acknowledging that those, are not tooled for runtime, and so won't land in the game, while also giving you that affordance to, as you say, you know, is it going to be live preview? Is it going to be rendered? And I think that some of the foundation going in right now to support live media transfer are really building blocks towards a future where we imagine you being able to do more with effects over time. So thank you for that. Keep saying it all the time. In fact, if there's other folks out there dreaming it, please drop a line. I'll seed it here that openears@audiokinetic.com is the email address you can send to any time with bright ideas, dreams, and suggestions.
Excellent, yeah, because it's fantastic to have that conversation for what people need, and you know, especially since audio and game dev is an ever-changing thing by the day at this point, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
My goodness. So Blaine asks, reflecting on the haptics talk, how can Wwise Audio be used to drive Wwise Motion to get that immersion? Right.
So Wwise Motion is our haptics plugin, and after you have that in Wwise and initialized in your game, you have two different paths for creating those haptics events, right? You create a haptics bus in the master mixer. You can route audio directly to it, and that can be, you know, translated to haptics immediately based on the audio. And again, dig into the talk that that Rodrigo and Tyler gave on Spider-Man 2 haptics. It's available in the GDC Vault and coming soon to our YouTube channel from the Audiokinetic Theater. And they really outline best practices for that, along with Christian's talk from IO Interactive. So a couple great illustrations of that. And on the other side of it, you have motion synthesis. So synthesizing that, either using the Wwise Motion Synthesizer or something simple like Wwise Synth 1, which you can just create these haptic events, run them through that haptic bus, and boom, 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 it's happening.
Wow, my goodness, haptics are fantastic. I mean, it's especially when you're considering the next gen consoles and what the controllers can do now. That's amazing. So yeah.
Totally.
Oh my goodness, Marcus. Ooh, what a question. How do you view the role of object rendering or spatialization on the OS hardware level compared to providing a consistent audio experience across all platforms a game is released on? Also, how do you see the current adoption and utilization of binaural and spatial audio in the gaming industry? Are these technologies being widely implemented, and what challenges or benefits have you observed in the application?
I love this question. It speaks directly to the object-based pipeline that was introduced in Wwise 21.1, you know, and just fell into place natively with the ability to author for these new 3D audio formats, right? And the question up front was, hey, why leverage hardware-based spatializers compared to something like Oro 3D, which has been in the box with Wwise for years? And the simple answer is, well, hardware acceleration, right? When you can deliver a neutral object-based format to the endpoint, you know, your platform,
yep.
and essentially, if you author for that, what you get is you get the ability for Wwise to dynamically reconfigure itself based on whatever the settings are at that endpoint for the best possible reproduction. So if you're playing with headphones using 3D audio, we will open all the floodgates and you'll get audio objects with their precision and position in space. You'll get that spatialized main mix, which again, both of those being processed by the hardware spatialization. And then the pass-through, which is that untouched, unfiltered presentation of sounds that you don't want to be spatialized, right? But in a moment, as the player, you could change to your speakers. You could change to an unspatialized format. You could change to 714, 71, or 51. And what happens in Wwise when you configure things, to be dynamic in the mixer is Wwise actually reconforms to that setting. And so again, by having that on the platform, having that decision being taken at the endpoint, Wwise can do what's right for that platform. If you do it in software, you have different considerations. You'll have to make different decisions about where and how you employ those spatializers. And so maybe that's one piece of that puzzle. The other side of it is, yeah, okay, I hear you. Like, between the different flavors of spatialization, we're in this Neapolitan ice cream of 3D audio era, right? Yep. Because they all have these tiny little things that are different. And if you go to some of the presentations that Loic Clothier did on Returnal, where they took a game that had been created first for PS5 and then made the leap onto PC, where they then remixed the game for the different spatialization options available on PC, you'll know that there's some work there to get it tucked in where it needs to be. However, I think that's going to be a temporary malaise, right? We'll find those technologies evening out over time. This is my prediction anyway. And so, authoring for each of them should smooth out. Meanwhile, those affordances are available in Wwise to be able to override the volume or filtering setting on a per sound or a per bus basis. And so I won't say that there's not work there, but it is easy to make those decisions in Wwise because of platform overrides.
Definitely, and just looking at my own notes there, if the users or Airwiggle's conference members, if they want to go into the Audiokinetic website and type in the search bar Ambisonics and Wwise, that article will come up. As of today, Tuesday, the 11th of June, 2024, there is a comments box where Audiokinetic will take your suggestions regarding the future development of spatial audio and what you'd like to see. So any questions around that, I'm sure the team would love to see. Cool. Right. So Angela says, hi, I'm sorry if these are dumb questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Is Wwise compatible with, is it Rive? Animation and interactivity app to Flutter pipeline. Okay. How about the brand new Toon Boom Harmony Gaming to Jump powered by Godot pipeline? Okay, cool.
Wow, great question. So we have a Wwise Unity integration. We have a Wwise Unreal integration. We have a community integration of Wwise for Godot, currently managed by Alessandro Fama and team. So in the case of Rive, Flutter, not that I'm aware of, unless someone is spinning that up on the community side, we do not support those. However, I'd be interested to know if that Toon Boom Harmony Gaming powered by Godot could possibly leverage the community Wwise Godot integration. So that might be a door to knock on to see if that's possible.
Cool. Excellent. I'm seeing here that there's a lot of love for Audiokinetic. Keep it coming, guys. Brilliant. They're a fantastic company to work with. It's lovely to hear. And yes, of course, Damian's amazing. Okay, so question. One of the things I felt lacking, this is from Alexander. Question, one of the things I felt lacking on Wwise was the WebGL platform build. It made me lean onto FMOD more often, especially in smaller projects. Are you going to offer WebGL builds anytime in the future?
So web audio, this is something that we've been working towards, and we released experimentally as part of 23.1. We have a web audio Wwise Up On Air, where I spoke with Philip Milo. He gave the rundown on where web audio for Wwise is, and he points out some of the reasons why we haven't got all the way there yet. And you know, he's very invested in the community around web audio, and so we're, you know, continuing to evolve towards a workflow that is easy for people to adopt, but the platform in general is still growing and still finding its way. So we're right alongside trying to participate in that platform, and we're going to keep moving towards that direction. So in the meantime, if you are developing for web or want to be integrating Wwise in a web-based project, reach out through the customer portal and get in on the experimental availability of our WebGL builds. So definitely interested to hear more from folks who are reaching out in that direction, what they need, what's missing, and where we can help.
Excellent. Thanks, Amy. That's great. Because yeah, why not? Is it okay with you, Damian, if we stay another 20 minutes? I think Lewis said we have until 1:30. So
I'm ready. Let's rock.
Cool. I mean, nobody's trying to kick us off. This is great. Okay. Case in point, we could probably talk for hours. Sorry, guys. So Anthony says he loves the gradual improvements of the Wwise GUI over time. Excellent. Where are we now? Lots of really lovely comments. All the love it. Nikhil asks, any new sample games in the Audiokinetic horizon other than Cube and Limbo?
Great. So Cube and Limbo, been there a long time. We've also got the Wwise Audio Lab, which is our Unreal sample, and the Wwise Adventure game, which is our Unity sample. We don't have anything official to queue up for samples, but anyone out there notice that The Witcher 3 dropped some support for modding? And by dropped, I mean enabled support for modding. That's a Wwise game right there. So imagine wading into the world of Witcher with Wwise. That's a lot of W's. And being able to, you know, mod that game in whatever way is interesting from an audio or music or dialogue perspective, you could do it right now. So while we don't have anything landing in the Audiokinetic launcher as part of our samples, this would be a great place for people who are looking to go beyond what we offer and continue running with Wwise.
Excellent. Yeah, because the sample games you offer are quite solid. I enjoy them, like, so. But yeah, it's always nice to play something new and to kind of mess around with something new and not have to touch an engine if you don't need to, you know. So thanks for your question, Nikhil. That's great. Mark, yeah, sorry, I read your request aloud. You know, if I didn't, shouldn't, I'm sorry. Okay, let's have a look. Thanks, Tiffany. Open ears at audiokinetic.com. Excellent. Ollie, they ask, isn't Wwise, it's used in cars at the moment for, is it sound design?
Yes, so we also have the Wwise automotive aspect to Audiokinetic, and it has started to find its way into cars. And there's a lot to negotiate there. We gave a presentation, it was Francois Thibault who gave a presentation at the Wwise Worldwide Online Expo in 2020. I can't even count. And it was at that time that he outlined, really what's at stake in the automotive industry when it comes to sound. I know there's a lot of folks out there, dreaming of their car sounding like a speeder bike or,
It's amazing.
Star Destroyer, whatever, right? This is awesome. And, inside of the vehicle, there's a whole opportunity for creating these different audio experiences. And having Wwise as a part of that means that you could start imagining the same kind of techniques that you use in games or location-based entertainment arriving in what they are calling the living room of the future. I don't know about this future, but, this kind of idea of dynamic or interactive audio, it starts with safety ultimately. And so from the ground up, everything is engineered towards giving feedback about what's happening in or outside of the car. Anyway, Francois goes deeper into that. Again, you can dig into our YouTube channel to get a little bit of background on it. But yeah, Wwise Automotive. I love the way that that's growing. And I love that it will one day grow to involve the interactive audio community. I believe that this is a way that people will continue to grow and expand on some of the techniques we use in games out there in the real world.
Excellent. Yeah, because it's like when I saw that on the website that it was used in the automotive industry, it was even something I forgot to ask, but it's amazing. Okay, so I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it correctly. Is it Zan? Zan Williams asks, not sure there'd be time for this, should have thought of it earlier, but okay. With relation to feature requests, what's the preferred pipe for that now, or will this be improved? Okay, it sounds like you're logging them when they're coming. What is happening here? It sounds like you're logging them when they're coming from all over, but I find it a bit tricky to get stuff logged and or visibility on how they're treated. For example, I've had support tickets. Okay, so so support tickets. Is it? Okay, so I'm a bit confused here, Damian.
Cool. Okay, yeah. I'll summarize the question and or statement, and it's really that where do you go to submit a suggestion? And again, maybe we can put some distinction between the different ways to communicate with Audiokinetic. We have, of course, our Wwise community Q&A. This is an open forum for Wwise developers, Wwise users to communicate, collaborate, ask and answer questions. We are monitoring that and doing what we can to arrive with answers when we can. But it's a community space. We also have our Audiokinetic support channels. This is a paid support channel for developers actively working, and our support team is there to help unblock them during their professional development for folks who are licensing Wwise. We have our bug reporter, which in the Audiokinetic launcher up in the question mark is a option for you when you run into a bug when you're using Wwise, whether it's a crash or just something that you think is not right. You can use the bug reporter in the Audiokinetic launcher. It knows what version of Wwise you're using. If you've crashed, it will send along any logs or messaging. So this is a great place to communicate what's happening when you run into a problem. Attached to each release of Wwise, is it the monkey wrench icon? There is a survey that you can take. And this is a focused survey for each release of Wwise that goes through all of the different features asking you what you think. Like, how did that object-based pipeline arrive? What about object tabs? Hey, have you heard of reverb zones? What did you think of that if you used it? So we're keeping an eye on all of this feedback. And then the last piece is this open ears at audiokinetic.com. And this is just a simple email because not every request arrives as fully formed, right? Sometimes it takes a little engagement and some discussion. We're not currently participating on Discord, although once in a while we'll stumble on a great thread and contribute. The same thing is true over on Slack. And yeah, again, it's great to hear that you're looking for the right way to engage, but honestly, any way that you arrive with a suggestion, a request, or, you know, a question really, we're happy to receive that and move it through in whatever way we can.
Excellent. Oh my goodness. So yeah, we've only got one more live chat question, which is fantastic. We're getting through them, and thank you all for your lovely comments, because we see them, we're reading them, they're amazing. Thank you. And Alessandro, I'll definitely be discussing Godot and Wwise with you, because the API is great fun. So Daniel, out of the blue question, very welcome. How is Wwise Audiokinetic looking at 10 years from now in terms of new hardware standards, for example, quantum or more AI-centric systems? What challenges are you seeing in that context?
Wow, this is the first question I have no answer for.
You're jumping ahead of us, Daniel, I think.
Living in the future already, I would say, again, we are right there with new platform adoption and release. And so we're always moving forward in the best way possible along with our development partners. So I don't know, stay tuned. Like, I think back to the first Xbox that came with a dedicated chip for DSP, for audio DSP. Brian Schmidt was audio architect back during those days and lobbied to get a audio its own DSP. We used it where we could. And even today, we continue to find ways to leverage the hardware across platforms when we can, accelerating different processes on PlayStation, Xbox, where that hardware is available. So if I had to speculate, I would say we will do everything we can to make sure that audio can run performantly as we continue to increase the fidelity of these simulations, right? The rendering of these experiences.
Excellent. Yes, it's all to play for, and yeah, it's interesting times we're entering into at the moment. But it's great to see that all the Wwise updates for you know, opening up certain things that were under the hood for a while. I'm very excited, just personally. Okay, so since we have about 10 minutes, I suppose I'll just finish off with some of the questions I have here. So let me see. Okay, so Kevin asks, is there, that's the only one we actually didn't answer from the forum. Actually, there's two. Is there any plan to create a dedicated system to trigger exterior ambiances for a large open world depending on location? I tried to create a system like this using spatial audio volumes with zero transmission loss, but I found that the volumes are not very flexible in terms of shape. The volumes get tied to a rectangular bounding box even when creating a more complex shape. It would be great to have a dedicated system for setting up large open world ambiances out of the box in Wwise, rather than turning to a more custom solution with programming support. There we go.
All right, cool. Thanks for that question. And did anyone hear it when I said reverb zones? So reverb zones, or wall-less rooms, not walrus rooms. I didn't say that. Wall-less rooms. Walrus. Could be what you're looking for, because they, you know, are that zero transmission loss flexible space. Reverb zones are, you know, parented to a 8K spatial audio volume. So imagine you've got a giant one, you know, blanketing your world that is a background ambience or nothing, whatever. And then as a child of that AK spatial audio volume, you could use these reverb zones to define your different ambient spaces. The sound of those will propagate outside of that using whatever aux bus effects you have on them. And they kind of act like, you know, a big emitter. They have a transition region where sound will propagate and fade across dynamically. So as you approach it, it's quieter. You get closer, it's louder. You move back, it's quieter. You know, it's fully dynamic. It doesn't have the same implications of a room and a portal. So these are flexible things. And I imagine folks, as that feature arrived with 23.1 and continued to evolve across patch releases this year, when they get more familiar with what the possibilities of reverb zones are, I just think something like that could be the answer to a question of environmental landscaping, if you soundscaping.
With the walrus. Oh my goodness. So there was one more there from the thread I created on Airwiggles, and that was when is the 1 Minute Wise series coming back?
Oh yeah, well, we're gonna have to talk to Mass about that. He's been real busy doing workshops and helping to, you know, educate folks in these deep dive seminars. So we'll see. I know he's got a few on his wish list, and I'm hoping soon. So I'm glad to hear that there's an interest in that. I'll carry that back to him and yeah, maybe drive his intention. So
absolutely, it's a great series. Oh yeah, if there's any questions here that we're not answering, please contact me in Airwiggles and we'll see what we can do. Oh, Guido, I actually referenced you earlier with the max MSP to Wise capability. So if you'd like to drop a link of yours here, it might help people. And he has a question actually. Maybe it was already answered, but how can I create a BPM change in the middle of a segment? Whew.
Helen, you want to take that?
Oh my Lord. In the middle of a segment.
So that's a tricky one. We don't have anything like tempo mapping right now. And really, I guess you're looking for some kind of sample accurate transition between segments, really.
So I'd say you could, if Guido wants to get on to me, you can kind of show me your session and see if we can poke around it and see if we can figure it out, because it's like trying to diagnose something without being able to see it. But that's a fantastic question.
BPM change, which is to assume that you want to change the BPM of the currently playing music, right? And the only way you have at the disposal, if you want to stay in that segment, is playback speed, which is not BPM, but something.
A bit of phasing, I'd say.
I wonder how you would do that if you were ramping, because you want to ramp, I guess, is maybe the... Okay, we're in the weeds, but I love the question. And
I love this. Okay. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Something to sink our teeth into, Guido. We'll have a look. Okay, let's have a look. Thank you all. Yeah, you're very welcome. Bookmarking the... Oh yeah, if anybody has opened all these links and made a document, please send it to me, because I'd love to look at them all later. Adam Gillard, I think this is our last question here. Likely too late for another question, but what might your opinion be on standardizing naming conventions across game audio tools? Can we ever get to a point where the same buttons are called the same thing across different software? Oof. It's a loaded question.
Yeah. Well, good news. Like, volume is usually volume. We got that going for us. And it's usually in dB, which, just to throw it back, when I started, volume was represented in a 0 to 1. So imagine trying to do math when you want to take something down 2 or 3 dB. So we're in a place where at least we have some overlap in terminology. Events, banks, volume and pitch. Okay, we've got sense and what's the other one?
Sense and oh my god, my brain.
I know, right?
Pitch sense and
me too. Yeah, we're never going to win, Helen.
No, we're not.
A good question.
We did. It was 19 minutes. It's amazing.
But yeah, I wonder what buttons we specifically want to align. I know I have my naming standard campaigns in progress. We'll see where we arrive with that in the future. But let me know. Drop some semitones. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric.
Nice one. Yeah. And definitely drop any naming suggestions into the chat. I'd love to hear, Adam, where we should be going. Question: Could
one more?
RTB,
that one. Sorry, could RTBC curves be set with BPM as a parameter?
So good question. You could use music callbacks maybe to fire off, events that could be calculated external to Wwise and brought back as a game parameter. That's, the same way you've got these apps online that you can just kind of tap at it and it will quantize your taps into a BPM. I just wonder if there's not a way to, get music callbacks about the tempo, send it anyway. And look into Wwhat. I wonder what is under the hood with our Wwise authoring API for you to get the tempo information. Use it then to drive an art. Again, I'm riffing here at the end of some fantastic questions.
Okay, yeah. Oh, sorry, Lewis. Yeah, we will be just 2 seconds there now.
Next talk starting in 1 minute. So thanks so much, everyone. Helen, you did a great job.
Thank you.
This all together. Thank you.
Damian, you're amazing. Thank you so much. And everybody's questions were fantastic. If there's any way we can get a transcript of the chat here to look back over, that'd be great. Or if anybody collated all the links into a document, that'd be fantastic. Enjoy the next talk.
Shout out to Masha and Tiffany. Thanks for the support. Yay!
Enjoy. I'm going to be watching that too. So well done, Damian. And I'll be. Thank you to Greg and Lewis and to all the sponsors and Audiokinetic. And fantastic. And you can catch me on Airwiggles if you want to. Anyone wants to DM. And enjoy the rest of your day. And pegos. See you, Damian. Bye.
All right. See ya.